Greetings and welcome to the Power of Vintage. In today's episode, we're going to continue along the path of the Atari ST, 1040 STE. This guy back here. There's a lot of different things we're working on here. This is the last element before I figure it's pretty much ready to go. And what we're doing here is I'd like to provide a hard drive. And this is that hard drive. Let's get to making this. All right, what we have here is we have the ACSI2SD project kit with the printed circuit board as well as all the different components required in order to make it work. Not too pricey, relatively reasonable. Acquired, and what we'll do is let's just open this guy up. Pull out the pieces, get them out here. Oh, here this is already open on this side. This path instead. Okay, we've got a nice connector. Perfect. Sorry about the light. I'm trying to keep this. Maybe if this is better without. Let's keep the light on here. I think it's probably because of the white here. Here we have the micro SD card adapter, a power port. These can actually be powered from the ST if you wire it in properly. I'm not interested necessarily doing it. I don't like to add power out, an extra load on the power supply. This isn't a lot of load, I know it's not, but that said, I'll probably just power it with a micro USB cord specifically. All right, so here we have it. Here's the main PCB. A lot of interesting parts here. And we'll get working on getting this puppy put together. All right, we're gonna start with some of the SMD components. Actually, let's get a little closer. There we go. And we're gonna start with this diode here. It's backwards. Let's put up a little bit of solder right here. All right. And the line on this guy needs to face downward. See here, oh good. It's in place properly. And now let's get the other side. Just double check, make sure it's connected. Looks like it is. All right, component number one. All right, the next component we're going to be putting on is a fuse. That's this guy here, so we'll get him out. Actually, let's tin up one of the pads. He's going to go on. He's going here at F1. Let's zoom in, get a little closer. There we go. There we go. You know, it wasn't that long ago that I wouldn't even dare try soldering SMD stuff. And then I tried and was successful with a little thing and just gradually did a little more, a little more, a little more. All right, let's make sure we're looking good here. This doesn't look too bad. This kit isn't too bad, actually. Soldering CPLDs, that's painful. I'm going to want to use a little flux on that. That just looks ugly. But there we go. That looks a lot better. All right. That is component number 2. Last guy here is this little capacitor. All right, the next capacitor we have is it's this little guy that's going to go right there at C2. C2B1 is what it really is. And let's just make sure they're the same. They sure look like the same. Well, that's the LED there. I always love it when you have tiny, tiny little components, making sure you didn't lose anything in the mix. All right, this is an LED here. This here is the capacitor. As I make it jump out of my fingers. All right. There we are. Here he is. Wow, he is a little guy. Do here next is, let me just make sure this is easy to see. Turn up this guy right here. Simple as that. Find my lovely capacitor. Set him down there. It looks good. I'll just heat up this side. It doesn't have to look pretty, but I do want it to at least be mostly straight. The most important part is that it has contact with both sides. Oh, there we go. And as you can see, that wasn't fully connected. And now we'll add a little more solder to the other side. There we go. Now we flip this guy over and find the power LED. There we go, power LED. That is not the LED, that is a resistor. It is always fun to kind of see what you can read on these little tiny, tiny pieces. So this is this resistor here. And we will go. Arm placed there. All right. That resistor is in place, and I'm going to try to find that LED, see if it disappeared somewhere and bounced off onto the floor somewhere. Of course, you didn't see me solder that last little bit on, but you can kind of see it now. There's a resistor there. Actually, let's first solder on the microcontroller first, this guy here. And what we're going to do with that, we'll get some headers, make sure that they fit properly. Nope. All right, so we'll go for some round pin headers instead. Okay, so I actually did a bit of a test, and the square pin headers worked fine. I did tested on both the microcontroller as well as on the board here. It's a nice of a snug fit, but that's actually not a bad thing. I'm actually not opposed to that. There we go. Not a fan of how far out they're coming, although I think it'll be fine. All right, we are now going to solder. Get soldering these pins in. Once we're up to temperature, we're heating up. All right, there we go. On each side, just to make sure. These are in pretty snugly, so I'm not too worried about it slipping out at all. There we go. Let's see if we can't make this easier to see with the light. Try to get no shadows. Minimize the shadows and not have a whole bunch of glare. I don't have any fancy lights, fancy schmancy lights yet, but that's okay. Now we're moving. Almost there. You know, and if I'd been smarter, I would have actually left the controller attached to the top to make sure that I'm not doing anything silly where they're splayed out a little bit. Ooh, that was hot. Ouch. Hot, 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 hot. All right, be right back. Good, and it is hot, but not as hot as it was. Put this up. Nice thing is you have kit USB, or USB there. That says kit prog, but this is USB. And it's looking good. We get soldering now. All right, we got those four corners on. And now we solder the rest. Just need a little, excuse me, bumping everything around. Just need to get my arms around the camera, the tripod, make sure everything goes well and I can actually see what I'm doing. I probably could have balanced out the length of the pins, but you know, it's fine. You can see what's going on. Just making sure, checking the camera. I have a habit of doing things off camera and thinking I'm doing them on camera. There we are. Let's make sure everything looks good. All right, next up. Now this is a fun part. I am going to put this into each of these holes here. So I'm going to have to split them up a little bit. Split each of these guys up a little bit, bend them out of place. Let's zoom out a little so it's easier to see. Every other one goes one direction, and the there's go the other. I'll bend him a little bit more. A little bit more as well. Let's see, how does that look? Looks okay. So we'll see about getting this in place. Ooh. Oh, darn it, I got all but one of them in. Look at that. Darn it. Now we gotta bend him back in place. There, looks better. Just gonna make sure they're all in the right hole before I start pushing. There we go. All right. That looks like about where we're going, and then we're supposed to fold him over like so. This is where the SD card is going to go. The SD to ST card. Let's get this guy, hopefully. I'd like for it to be at least somewhat flush. It's not going to be perfect, but all right, again, this will work. I'm going for working and working well as opposed to being a perfect done deal. Man, that is shiny. That's some I'll figure this out one of these days. Ooh. We'll zoom in here. And I'll just solder these guys down. And now you last. And we're good. And I am going to trim those off. Those are too long. Sure we got them all. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got all 6. All 6 are off. All right, next step. I don't think I'm going to use the barrel plug, but hey, the person who gets this, maybe they love barrel plugs. Oops, there, don't break anything. There we go, here we are. As simple as that, there we go. There we go. You can see me doing it. Getting this barrel plug in place. Let's check these other sides. Fill those in with some solder as well. And it is in place and looking flush. This part is kind of interesting because the intent is not to solder this directly into these holes, because really that doesn't work. The solder cups won't work that way. But we'll use some headers in order to do that. It's kind of cool. We're just gonna, what I'm gonna do now though is I'm going to adjust these. We'll do this briefly. This may take a few minutes to get this more evenly spaced, but I'll get that in place and then I'll work on soldering those to this. The interesting part is after I've adjusted it, one of the things you have to do is, because the spacing of these holes here is different than the spacing of the pins, so you have to break them up into smaller chunks in order to fit properly. This is a very interesting process here. The last one is a singular pin, or 333. Get that last one in, boom. Looking pretty good. Now we need to do the others. And we'll start with these guys here. Let's see if we can get 4 at once. Yeah, we can get 4. Although, yeah, that works. I can make it work. We'll just bend that one pin. It causes one of the pins to bend a little bit up top, but we'll make it work. And then we need 3 and 3. 3 and 3. There we go. And the last 3 right here. It's not exactly the straightest pins. I'll give you a second here. All right, no adjusting of the pins until after we solder this guy, puppy in. So we solder him in first. Of course, this is force of habit. And it shouldn't actually matter because I've broken up the pins into smaller groups. Whatever. They are pretty wedged in place, so I shouldn't have to worry about it too much, honestly. They're not going to fall out. There we go. Let's just flip them over. Get the other side. Make sure you can see this. Okay. Just looking at it really closely. Not perfect, but good enough. Now we are going to straighten these pins. And I will do that off camera because it's going to be a pain. It is sliding this on top and then soldering in the cups. Again, I'm going to probably try this off camera because this is a bit snug for me. Let me figure this out. All right, let's see. Okay. We are going to lean it up so that I can actually see this and make it work. right, so we got that side. I'll fill in the rest. This is going to be interesting. Oh boy. I'll figure out how to make that work. It'd be nice to be able to see things. I can see it okay myself. Camera can't see it too well. Let's see if I can't pull this and get a slightly different angle of light. A little bit better. Not ideal. Let me see here. There we go. That one on that side's done. Oh, this is like gymnastics, getting this thing on. And doing it on camera is even more fun. Huh. All right, I'm going to try off camera, see if I can't make that work, because honestly, you don't want to see me struggling for hours. Be right back. All right, here we go. Soldering has been completed. Again, I am not claiming to be the best soldering expert around the world, but I can get stuff done. Whether or not it's perfect, well, I don't care too much about that. Okay, last item is this module here. And one thing that was not provided, there is a little insulator that's highlighted in one of the build videos I've been watching. Because this has to go, let's off a little bit more, in here. And it's going to fit in these holes here, this socket here. Now that is sexy, but really not that good. All right, so what I need to do is I do need to trim off those pins. And then I'll bend this down and put a little insulator between this and the board. So we should be good to go. Let's trim down. I'll show you doing one of them. Show myself doing one of them. There we go. As you can see now, there are a lot of trim pins down there. It's looking a lot better now. Looking good. Take this, and we'll use a little bit of double-sided tape. Let's make it smaller. It doesn't need to be that big. There we go. Place that here. Not perfect, but good enough. Good enough for government work. There we go. All right, next parts are software based. All right, we are here and we are going to select ICD format. This will allow me to select each of the drives. So this basically emulates 4 separate drives, and then we'll partition them each. Thanks, there we go. So we have 4 drives here. Let's see here. No, we don't want that. Rebuild one partition only. No. Let's go for size. So we have available of 536 megabytes. I'm just going to make it 530. Actually, 530. Yeah. And then let's partition it. Oh, no partitions are enabled. Let's see what we got going on here. Yeah, figuring this thing out. I think I used ICD once a number of years ago for my first Ultra Satan. It worked great, but I actually ended up using the PPARA drivers in large part because it allowed for Windows compatibility, easy Windows compatibility. So I could easily view all my partitions and easily copy any software downloaded directly to the hard drive or to the SD card. And then moved to HD driver, which allowed for a lot more flexibility. HD driver is excellent, but it's also more expensive. And so in the case of the first time I got HD driver, I think was with my Atari Falcon when I got that a few years ago. Because that allowed me to use the drivers both for the hard drive as well as for an external SCSI CD-ROM, where the PPARA wouldn't allow me to do that. And also my CT63 didn't like the PPARA drivers, where it's much more functional with the HD drivers as well. Wow, this is going to take a little while. All right, we'll skip to the end when it finally gets there. Okay, all the drives have been partitioned and set up, and now it's time to install the driver and make the drive bootable. So with the ACSI2SD, it creates 4 logical, whatever you want to call them, drives. And those 4 drives are partitioned. I partition them as one specific partition each. And the maximum they can be is ½ gigabyte. All right, so they are not set to auto boot as of yet. And we will run the hard drive utility program. And what this will allow me to do is to make one bootable. And I'll make the drive C bootable. All right, set hard disk auto boot. And I can select C, D, E, and F. We will select C. And we will use that file. And now what this is doing is installing the driver onto the C drive, so that every single time this computer boots now, we will have a boot. Now what we're going to do here, I'm going to do this now, is I am going to reboot the computer with a non-bootable floppy image in the GoTech. And that will rely on the hard drive to find itself. And it did, it found itself and identified the hard drive, and we got hard disk C. We're going to set
medium resolution is my standard. I just like to work with medium resolution just because it gives me more real estate space. We will install the devices, and we have C, D, E, and F. And I'm going to turn the blitter on, save the desktop, and this should save it to drive C, and create a new disk, new desk.inf, which it did. We have our icdboot.sys. We have our new disk.inf, and we are good to go. We're going to just reboot it one more time, make sure everything's stuck, but everything seems to be working delightfully. There we go. And we're good to go. All right. So back to the drive itself. We're going to just power this off, disconnect the barrel jack on it. There are a couple more things that I want to make sure I do to just make this more robust. First and foremost, as you can see, the only thing that's holding the socket in place is the solder to the pins, which is fine. But there's some great recommendations I've read online where individuals will run some screws, bolts, whatever you want to call it, with nuts at the end, and just reinforce this on here with two rigid, let's call machine screws and nuts on them. And I'd like to potentially create a 3D printed case for this guy as well. I don't see anything on Thingiverse, so I'll probably end up designing one as well. But everything's working. This is doing exactly what I want it to. It's functioning as a hard drive for this 1040 STE. I actually put it into this 520 STE case because this guy has already been retro-brighted, is looking gorgeous. I can always retro-bright the 1040 STE case eventually, but it takes lots of sunlight, and it's wintertime here in the US, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to I would be able to retro-bright that case before I wanted to find a home for this guy. And to be frank, a nice, clean case, retro-brighted or newer-like look, just does better than an old yellowy case. All right, I'll move on to the next step. I'll put some content specifically on the design of the 3D printable case here, as well as I'll show you what it looks like after I find the right screws and nuts for this guy here.
All right, this is me using 123D Design in order to design up the case. This is the case I had started with and done some test fits initially on the ACSI2SD PCB built up, whatever you want to call it, hard drive emulator. And this is the bottom case. As you can see, I slotted through, have a slot for the SD card to pop out the top, as well as the power barrel jack. And then here's me designing the top case to slot into that bottom case and just put a full enclosure in place. Again, just to simply protect the hard drive emulator. All right, here's me 3D printing the bottom case and then the top case. Again, these are the final prints because it's a time lapse, obviously. And it's because I'd already done a couple test fits to make certain that it would work and that it fit properly and adjusted accordingly. So that's the bottom case. Now we're going to the top case, a similar kind of situation here. Again, doing a time lapse. This will print up relatively quickly as well. But this makes all the difference in just keeping things looking clean and looking good.
All right, here we go. This is it, the final product in a case I designed, all printed out. Is it perfect? No, but you know what? It will work, and it works well, which is awesome. As you can see, I added some reinforcements over here with these two screws. I tried to use machine screws and nuts. They were too big and wouldn't allow the hard drive to plug back in, and so what I did is I used some shorter screws and then just soldered them in place. So what you have is you have nice reinforcement, so these big thick screws will bear the stresses of plugging and unplugging rather than the the soldered pins. And then the 3D printed case, as you can see here. We've got the SD card here. Boom.
All right, so this concludes everything associated with this Atari STE. I replaced the case with a retro-brighted case. I've replaced the keyboard with retro-brighted keys in the keyboard here. Everything has been tested, functions perfectly. It's been cleaned inside and out. We've installed a Gotek with a 3D printed case. Everything's set up. We programmed it as well. On the back side, we have the hard drive emulator here, fully assembled, fully tested, fully working, and set up with completely available abandonware software, so it's working wonderfully. We're set and good to go. This guy is pretty much ready to find a new home. If you like the content, like and subscribe. If you didn't like the content, let me know in the comments below why you didn't like it. Yeah, this hard drive, it's a great kit. I'll put links in the comments below as well. There's a lot that have come out recently. It used to just be, there was the Satan disk, the Ultra Satan, and over the last few years, people have implemented a lot of different versions of open source hardware. I bought this as a kit. You can actually go to the GitHub, get the Gerbers, get the parts printed out yourself from PCBWay, not sponsored by us at all, or some other PCB manufacturer, get the components and assemble it up yourself. These are not rocket science. This is actually kind of cool to be able to build this yourself. Like I said, like, subscribe. Hope to see you again. Thanks. Bye.